So welcome, everyone. This is our second ever interview on Sounds from Planet Earth. I'm your host, Marina Verdi, and we are chatting today on PerturbRadio. And I have the pleasure of talking to Frank Palangi, a really cool indie rock / metal, I would say, musician that I've come across in the interwebs. I just love his music. He hails from New York, I think right now. You're still in New York?
Yeah, upstate New York.
Very cool. A place full of art and awesome music. And I actually had the pleasure of hearing your upcoming EP that has 6 songs on it, but is called 5 with the Roman numeral 5. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about why you called it 5.
Because simply it's the 5th EP.
Yeah, I figured that must be the reason. Okay.
And it's the 10-year anniversary of my first EP. So I was like, it's not like starting over again, but I go, let me just call it number 5. It's not V.
Okay. That's cool, though, because it's like an ambiguous name, and people will be wondering if it's V or 5.
Yeah, and I'm like, Van Halen's done Volume 2 and that kind of stuff, too. So I'm like, well, Godsmack, I think, did 4 or 5. Remember Godsmack? 4, I think they did. Yeah. So I was like, all right, 5.
You're following the greats in their tradition. Very cool. Well, as I was looking through all of your productivity and everything that you've created, and by the way, guys, you should totally check out Frank's Instagram and Spotify and Facebook. There's just so much content, visual, musical. He's an amazing lyricist, guitarist, video maker. There's just so much content to delve into. So as I was looking through all this, I was just kind of wondering, how did you get started with music? Like, did you maybe have one of those aha moments when you saw a guitar and you just knew it's part of your destiny? Or did a family member introduce you to music? Tell us your story a little bit.
Pretty much. It was from watching the movie The Crow with Brandon Lee.
I
was like, okay, I got to, what is that thing? I remember telling my mom, I go, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's a guitar, and I go, I want to play that. That's what I want to do. And the music in the movie I really liked. I go, so eventually I could, play the music that's in the movie if I learned it.
Mm-hmm. You connected those dots.
Yeah, and I was like, well, maybe I can play, the Halloween theme and, the Terminator theme. And then, so that's how it started. Then somebody gave me a Metallica and Ozzy CD burned together, and that's what solidified. I have to learn 80s metal to play guitar, and it's just so, I don't know, the feeling, it's so raw, so aggressive, and it was nothing I ever heard. Because
How old were you here?
This was, the Crow thing was, I don't know, 11 or so, but I didn't play till 13. So I think I was 12, and then 13 I got a guitar, and everything else came afterwards. I don't know.
That's pretty young to be having this major artistic epiphany in your soul. Other kids maybe had other interests, and you just really wanted to express yourself through an instrument right away.
Yeah, I always felt like if you look at it, it's actually late. Kids start to play instruments around 7 or 8. And so I think I was a little late in the game, but I
started at 28. It's never too late. Come on.
yeah. It's never too late to learn.
Yeah.
Never.
You've done a lot. You've produced a lot of stuff since then. You've been very productive, and it's all quality over quantity sort of thing. It doesn't matter when you started. You have so much to say. You just keep making stuff, so it's all good. No time lost.
Yeah, well, I don't like to just keep throwing out songs just because you have to. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're like, well, you should do 7, 8 singles a year and stuff. And I'm like, no, it's you put your stuff in what you got, and that's what you got. That's what you put your energy and your heart and everything into it.
Do you find that sometimes you have more productive periods when you do just churn out a bunch of songs, and other times maybe a lull when you kind of don't feel inspired, or maybe only make one song in several months?
Not really, because I think I've tried that where I've tried to keep making songs. I kept going, and you get stale somehow. Where if I'm if I'm going to make one song, so the way I do it now is I concentrate on one song. I don't care what the other songs are, if they fit, whatever, you know what I mean? So you're like, this is a single, this is the next single, this is the next single. You have some idea of where you want to go. But,
that's interesting. As I was listening to your EP, I kind of was noticing that each song seemed like its own story, and you really paid a lot of attention to each of the songs. So as my listeners will hopefully get a chance to hear the whole EP after it's released, I'll play it all on my show, on the very next show, and on our station. We'll keep rotating it because I really like the songs. I feel like you weren't just rushing to release an EP or an album. as a body, like a full body of work, you actually paid a lot of attention to little sounds and little noises within each of the songs.
Yes, and I think you can hear all that. Now that stems into because I mixed the CD too. So this time around, it actually was the sound that I wanted to get. Where even I mixed the last CD, Bring On the Fear, but I didn't quite. It was almost there for me, and this one it was a lot closer.
Did you gain some new knowledge that made it more like what you wanted to sound?
Yeah,
like?
I mean, you had COVID. I mean, still COVID, but then you had a 3-year span or so of just learning different things. Because I started Bring On the Fear like in 2018. It came out in 2020, and then as soon as that came out, 2020, I worked on this record. So this one, it took me, I'd say about a year and a half to do. Where usually they take 2 years, to be honest.
So you're getting more efficient maybe as you're expanding your knowledge.
Yeah, well, I wasn't playing out as much, COVID, all the live gigs. I wasn't doing 2-3 gigs a week and all the other stuff, and having people over to record, and a lot of teaching, teaching guitar lessons all the time, and everybody over there and working here. And so now I was like, this is pretty much all I got.
You're already covering my follow-up questions that I have, so I might as well just ask them now.
Okay.
But I was actually going to ask for this particular EP if the process was different in recording. So clearly you didn't have people in your space recording anymore. So did you have other musicians, or did you record all the instruments? Because I know you're capable of doing quite a bit of it yourself.
Yeah, I did everything except for drums on 2 of the songs. I did branch out, and you actually hear me play drums on the 2 instrumentals. That was because one of the songs I wrote 20 years ago, and I go, well, if anyone knows this song the best, it's probably me.
Is that the first song on the EP that you wrote 20 years ago?
Yeah, Injection. Yep.
I absolutely love that song. I just can't stop listening to it.
So the reason why it's called Injection, I don't think I've said this to the first one. So my band in high school was called Lethal Injection with 2 N's. This is before the metal band out there stole the name.
Great name.
And yeah, I had it first.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yep. But it was called the intro for that project, and I go, well, I'm not going to call the song Lethal Injection, so I'm going to call it Injection, because that's what it feels like, it's what it sounds like, and it's a throwback to my band.
So was that referring to energy, like an injection of energy?
Yeah, and just that Metallica-ness, the thrashy kind of stuff from the 80s, that sort of vibe. And
that's
then
cool.
The other one I did drums to, which was an ongoing kind of joke. Like, it was called the Greg Tro, the Bob Tro, the Josh Tro, whatever it is. And so since I did the drums on this one, I call it the Frank Tro.
That's where that came from.
Yeah, it's a live gig thing, actually. And the way the EP set up is like an A and B side, I consider it. First 3 songs are like an A side of a record. The other 3 are the B side. So I was like, you have those songs that kind of transition into different moods.
Yeah, so I found myself being able to listen to the EP from like beginning to end and really liking the journey it took me on, and just pressing play again, re-listening.
Yeah.
And actually what you were just talking about your influences with Metallica is kind of covering one of my first questions that I had. I was going to say, and this was before you talked about your lethal injection of energy, which is really feeding into this. I was going to say that what I love about your music is the youthful energy of all of it. It really reminds me of some of my favorite artists from like the 90s and early 2000s,
yes.
Which is like some of my favorite era. I mean, not to say how old I am, but I'm 37, so I was a teenager, like late teens and early 2000s, and I was really coming into my conception of music back then. And your kind of aesthetics is reminding me of that time. So I was just kind of wondering if you could kind of let us know, maybe share with us what shaped your sound. I know you said Metallica and like Ozzy and Black Sabbath, but like, is there anyone from that era that really shaped your sound? And also, who are you listening to now? Like, is there anyone present right now that's helping you, that's inspiring you?
Yeah, I would say, the 80s stuff was the influence. It's not necessarily, like you said, the sound I was going for. The sound that I really love is from the Godsmack, the 3 Days Grace, the Drowning Pool, the Powerman 5000, Rob Zombie, Monster Magnet.
I love Powerman 5000. I don't meet a lot of people that love that. So
I've opened up for them for 3 times. They are the loudest band indoors I've ever heard.
They have a lot of theatrics, a lot of
their
charisma.
sound is spot on too. I mean, it's clearer than clear. It's like listening to the CD. That's why I love it. And I was like, oh man. So I thrive to get kind of their claridness. You know, I was like, oh, okay, the clarity's there. How can I do that in my set?
Probably a lot of production.
Yeah, and they have the time to do it. When you open up for shows, you don't really have time. But then it jumped to Daughtry. I think like songs like Frozen, Daughtry was definitely a big influence. Saving Abel, The Hinders. I mean, Three Doors Down still was 90s, but I didn't listen to it until maybe like 5 years or something later that they came out.
I love them as well. Not a lot of people say that they were an influence. They have a very soulful, sad kind of music, and I heard a lot of soldiers listen to them at the battlefield just because it really resonated with their heart and pain.
Yep. I can be specific. Their clean guitar tones is more of where I think my style is, with Mark Tremonti, that kind of thing. The electric, not so much for me, but I love everything they do. And we actually did the acoustic set tour they did in 2014. I got to open up for a date, and it was like Songs from the Basement, or I think it was called. It was neat. It was all acoustic. It was just me and them. So it was that was still one of my favorite concert experiences. But you learn from all that, because I had to be like, how do I take all my rock songs and throw them in acoustic? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's a whole process.
But nowadays it's like pretty reckless, deciphered down. I still listen to Scott Stapp, all his new stuff, out of Creed. Alter Bridge a little bit. Trying to think one of the other.
Do you listen to anything that's not guitar based?
Sick Puppies, remember them?
No, I haven't heard Sick Puppies. I guess I should check that out.
Long time coming. Na, 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 na. No?
Totally clueless. I should totally check that out.
It's a good song.
Very cool.
So Johnny Cash, I would say. You mean stuff that's more, maybe more, on a
songwriter. It's very songwriter focused, his music, I think. Right?
Yeah, a little Elvis if it's on. I'll listen to that kind of stuff. And so I've been taking Berklee classes, Berklee music, and I've had to listen to a slew of 70s classic rock. Now, I'm not a fan of really Pink Floyd and Clapton, that kind of stuff. It's just not my cup of tea. But the Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, because to me that's the birthplace of hard rock.
I knew you were going to say Led Zeppelin. Something in me just knew you were going to say that. Yes, Jimi Hendrix. The soul is such a soulful and intense vibe.
It's all what melodies do you lean towards? Mm-hmm. If you listen to Pink Floyd, you listen to Led Zeppelin, the melodies are totally different, tunings and all that kind of stuff. And I think it was just more of a melodic end on the minor spectrum versus the major spectrum. I don't know. But.
I listen to both Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. I think it really depends. If you're looking for a really chill mood, Pink Floyd is amazing, and all the things they've done with guitars.
Yeah.
Their two frontmen do with guitars, which actually leads me to the next question I have for you.
Okay.
While I was listening to your EP, I noticed that your guitar music isn't just about playing chords. And I mean, I know plenty of musicians that are great guitarists and they just play chords to tell their story, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I honestly could never hear them do anything else while they're playing their guitar. And right away, I noticed from the very first song, Injection, all these techniques that you're bringing to your playing, which shows me that you're so much more of an advanced player than just a guy playing chords. So do you want to maybe share a little bit? Because the reason I noticed this also is I literally felt like some of your guitar sounds that you were getting out of your guitar, they almost sounded like keyboard sometimes. And I don't think you have keyboard in your music, right?
Yep.
But you made your guitar sound like other instruments, which shows me your skill level. So do you want to maybe share with us a little bit of your favorite guitar techniques that you used when you recorded this EP?
Yeah, I go back to actually not Randy Rhoads. He's more of the playing, but Zakk Wylde's sound. Like if you listen to those Ozzy CDs, there's some wacky effects and stuff. There's octaves and there's chorus. Different tunings. Yeah, I think one of them is like before B and C were popular, he was doing that.
Wow.
And I think some of that goes with it. And then it's just some of the, Honestly, a lot of stuff I record just the regular distorted sound, and I'll add it later. Or I'll do something to it that I'll just screw up the sound on purpose. You know what I mean?
So you record something like in the studio, but then you edit in the computer to make it
Yeah,
sound different?
all the effects are in the computer pretty much. But now you got the wah and you got some chorus and all that kind of stuff. And I'm talking about like that, like you said, those spacey reverbs. How do you make it sound like a keyboard or a like a string instrument? You know, that kind of stuff.
Are there,
and
like,
how do you play
techniques?
that?
Yeah, are there like techniques you use? I'll bet you there are, like even palm muting, just like any of the techniques that you might be using, not just hitting the strings normally.
Yeah, if you tune your guitar, like I have an octave pedal, so say you're in D standard or E, it drops it down basically a whole octave, which is more on the bass guitar, or if you're playing like, you know, the bass guitar with the, I can't think of it. Well, with the strings, whatever the violin thing is with all the strings.
Bow?
The bow, the low one. You can start to chug notes differently than you would play guitar that way. And then a lot of the stuff where if you want to get it more digitally, I play with my pick sideways. So you get that scratchy kind of squealy sound.
Very rock and roll raw sound.
Yeah, so if it's a backing instrument, like you said, making it want to, like a keyboard or just something weird, and depending on what tuning, I guess what I'm saying is the tuning really matters, because you could go a whole octave higher and it sounds like a keyboard, especially if you're playing the high E string and it's already an octave up. It's way up there. You're not used to it at all, you know?
That's probably why it sounds different to me, because I'm hearing that, but then you go to regular guitar playing for the rest of the song. And so at the very beginning of that first song, Injection, I feel like, what am I hearing? What instrument is that?
I know it. So I'm taking my fingers, I'm doing a pulse thing, like dun, 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 dun. It's a certain technique that's a little different. Yep.
I could talk to you all day about all the techniques.
Those
and
are regular. Those are regular notes, to be honest. There's not really. I think there's reverb and chorus over it.
Yeah, it's just unexpected to me. I listen to a lot of like metal and rock, what I would say classic rock. I mean, I listen to things like, say, Deftones, which I guess also has a lot of unique guitar stuff that they try to do, or even Korn. But I feel like in a way I don't expect some of what you're doing, so right away my ears are perking up and they're like, what is that? What are you doing there? So it's cool to be hearing, because I can't ask Deftones what they're doing, but I can chat with you because I'm curious to see what you're doing. So that's very cool. There's a lot for me to learn.
I was never a fan of, I love Green Day and all that kind of stuff, but like you said, just straightforward chords, or even 3 Days Grace, there's a lot of straightforward drop chords. I go, where's the other stuff? You know what I mean? And
it's their sound. That's how they're expressing themselves, but it's cool that you have a more complex sound, and that's what piqued my interest right away, because I hear so much music all the time, and a lot of it's cool, but just like eventually you kind of get used to how it sounds, and then something new comes along and you're like, what is that? So that's very cool. I appreciate that experience.
Melodic. It's all about melodic stuff, I think.
Yeah, that's probably what you're trying to achieve, but then there's all these techniques that you can do to achieve that.
Yep.
So actually my next question was about COVID and how it affected. I know we talked a little bit that you said you couldn't bring musicians in to record with you.
Yeah.
Is there any other way? Maybe you said you maybe had more time to work on learning new skills for your music. So in a way, COVID also has kind of positives, like not COVID, but the way that you're stuck at home, in a way it gave you more time to work on your musicianship.
Yeah, I did a lot of studying on mixing. That was kind of my goal, because I was mixing and recording that record. So I think between Bring On the Fear and then this one, the time I had to learn even more, helped a lot. And then the Berklee classes too, whether I wanted to do it or not, they did help. And I'm realizing that now, because I'm like, there was 2 songs I'm writing now that I'm like, I would have never done this before. ever.
You gained some new skills, and now you're thinking with new tools in your brain.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm not a fan of Eric Clapton, but there's this one lick that he does, and I threw it in something that has like a hardcore breakdown into the chords that I like, and I was like, wow, that's cool. It's different. So it's taking stuff from the past, but then how do you make it modern? You know, because I can't sound like Metallica. anymore. You know what I mean? You
Why
can't
would
just
you?
sound like Pantera or something.
Yeah, you have to sound like you. Exactly. That's what we're doing as modern
Yeah.
musicians. We're using our influences as tools, and then we're injecting ourselves into it to create a different sound. It's very
A throwback record would be awesome. So I could picture me like doing specifically a Def Leppard song, a Metallica song, a Drowning Pool song, and it sounds like that.
In your own way.
In my own way, but that would be cool. Not to modernize it at all, but really, bring the reverb back. The big, remember the big snare reverbs they used to use?
Actually, I was going to say that too. You have a big sound, and I like that. I feel like your sound thinks in big terms. It's not trying to be modest or anything when I'm listening to the EP.
Yeah.
It's a big rock sound.
I don't do it with reverbs and stuff like that. That's, that's kind of 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're saying.
It's more like how you're approaching the songwriting. It's not even necessarily like a reverb. I don't know. It's something about...
Yeah. It's that mixed with layering, a little bit of layering, how I pan things and that kind of stuff, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of production that goes into making a good rock song or EP. So much more these days than just writing it. Like back when Jimi Hendrix was around, we both are very influenced by him. He didn't have to concern himself with mixing. He would just sit with his guitar day and night and learn how to play. And now you and I have to worry about mixing. All these little, so it's
almost like if the song don't sound good mixed, it ruins the song. Where it's like, however it was recorded back when Jimi Hendrix did Purple Haze, that's what it is. That's what it sounded like. It's probably because too they performed live in a studio, in a room together. So you got that sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even that was different. We record differently now. Yeah. We record piecemeal. And they used to, back in Elvis's time, since you're saying you listen to Cash and Elvis a lot, they all just went into a room and basically hit record. And they did it as many times as it took till they loved the whole take. And then they just put it on vinyl. That was it.
Yeah. That's how we did the first EP. My first EP was it was like the last of the old school days.
Did you have musicians? Like, did you have a whole band?
We were all in the same room. I was in the booth, the vocal booth, and they were in the main tracking room, but it's the same idea. We recorded live.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
A lot more to talk to you about, but I'm pretty much almost at the end of my questions. I think we covered a lot of ground, like quality over quantity. We talked about a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
I just kind of have two more things. I wanted to ask if you have anything to tell upcoming guitar lovers, like the upcoming generation. I know you teach guitar, so you talk to a lot of kids these days and see their passion. Like, is there any message you want to send? Because a lot of people, like I'm listening to Rick Beato and just a lot of people online who seem very jaded about the future of music or guitar playing, and they feel like everything's so auto-tuned, everything's so, quantized in the computer. Like, how do you really inspire kids, to want to play really guitar and write songs?
You got to do it for real. I say to all my students, practice is key. I never mention bringing anything up or programming anything. I'm not that type of person. You have to physically do it. I don't care if it runs through a processor to physically play that part. You know what I mean? Don't program it. Even because I've had electric drums and stuff like that, but you actually play them for real. You know what I mean? So you get that feeling.
Yeah, so you're not into like recording one drum hit and then looping it for the entire 3.5 minutes.
No, do it. Do each hit yourself.
Agreed. So this is a more organic songwriting and recording that you're for, and I feel the same exact way. So I think kids will feel a lot more inspired if they feel more close to their instruments.
Yeah,
they feel
repetition.
More in touch with their instruments.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why is repetition. That's the only reason that I've probably gotten where I am now is because of repetition. If I haven't played it gazillion times, I'm not the type where if you say something, I can just play it and then get it. You know what I mean? I have to sit down with it and I will play that 100 times, and then I'll probably get it.
So you've put in your 10,000 hours times like 10,000, and that's why you're.
Yeah. And a lot of it too is you have to rethink the way it sounds. At least that's what I think. So you learn something one way, but you actually understand what that chord is. So that's why, like when I teach a lot of the techniques and the backing parts, and then eventually you get to the riffs and this. Because if you don't understand it, you don't understand what a G chord is, and you're playing Good Riddance from Green Day, you can play it, but what does it really? What does a G chord sound like? You know what I mean? on
So
its
that's where the
own.
theory comes in. And I know in the 90s, a lot of my favorite artists like Nirvana or whatever, they
Yeah.
weren't super musically trained. They came from a punk tradition of kind of just grabbing your guitar, or even my favorite band, The Cure. They came from, they're like, just do it, pick up this guitar and hit the notes. And I mean, there was something to that too. So, I mean, I think what you're saying is there's a big benefit in practicing and learning your theory. And I think maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, like practice and learn your theory and then do the thing, grab the guitar and play the music.
Yeah, learn a riff, in between too, that sort of thing. But don't go full-fledged. I bought a guitar and I'm going to learn the whole Enter Sandman song. Understand.
They usually go right on stage in the punk scene before they even. There's a lot of videos on YouTube from the 70s of punk kids just hitting a guitar with their hand, not even knowing what they're doing, but it was their passion. They really wanted to do something.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay. So that was a lot of really awesome information. I really appreciate you talking to me. And I just wanted to ask that you're doing a lot of things, as I said earlier. You're teaching guitar. I know there's other services you offer. Do you want to maybe tell us really quickly what you offer to the musical community and where people can contact you if they want to grab your knowledge, pick your brain?
Yeah, go to frankpalangi.com. I can mix your track, whether it's acoustic or full band. I love doing that stuff. Play guitar, guest guitar for your song, or if you need bass, even if it's the main parts. Once in a while, I'll do some vocal stuff. Not often. I do some voiceovers for certain things. Been filming music videos, bands for music videos, mostly in the New York area. If they're local, and editing, but not as much. I'm into. Everyone's like, how come you don't want to edit music videos? I'm like, I like to be a music video director. I want to shoot it, give them the footage, and then
editing takes a really long time and it's really painstaking.
Yes, and I'm like, you're in the chair so much already between all the other stuff, and I'm like, I just want to physically do something.
Yeah. And actually, you mentioned your voiceover, and I didn't even talk to you at all about your voice. This whole interview was pretty much about your guitar, but I want everybody listening to know that you have a great voice, and
Thanks.
I really hope people listen.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to play some of your songs, and they're going to get an idea for what I'm talking about, but it's raspy and metal and so rock and roll, so I love it. And maybe just quickly, since I'm talking about it, do you want to tell us a bit if you took voice lessons or like what was your process with your voice? No?
Never. Nope.
Just naturally able to be a great singer.
Work. A lot of practice. Work. I could play you some old demos where you're like, that's what he sounds like. But even if you listen to I'm Waiting, like my first CD, I have a lot of that. I call it the warble, the Scott Stapp kind of, Pearl Jam has it in his voice. And then now I can do it, but it's not really my voice anymore. So sometimes you try to manipulate your voice or try to do other things to try to find your voice. But as a kid, I'd always play with action figures and make up 100 different voices. So I think that's why.
Very cool. Yeah, I had a similar experience. I tried to sound like my heroes when I was younger. Listening to older demos can be cringeworthy. But now we found our voices kind of...
Hello, me. Meet the real me. That kind of stuff. You got Metallica, all the yas. Yeah, it's cool.
And now you have your own voice, both literally and like metaphorically as a musician.
You throw in some of that stuff for character,
Very cool. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go and continue making awesome music?
Well, there's 6 songs to this EP. The one song is Panic that we're going to be pushing here next, and to me that is kind of a modern Metallica-esque feeling song. I don't know if you get that same feeling.
Yeah,
but
one of my favorite songs on this EP is Panic, which we're going to listen to after we're done talking to Frank.
I will say it was something that was different because when you listen to it, it has this like weird octave pedal thing going on, and I tried some different stuff, and I just tried to keep it more beat oriented, more open, get the flow going so the song doesn't really stop and start and stop and start, like just keep that going.
It's got a flow the whole time.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. And
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I'm on all the social media places, too, if you guys find me. And I don't know where else. Digitally, it's all the major platforms, I always say, whatever you guys like.
Yeah, I will drop all the links to your stuff on our post on Facebook about this interview. And you guys will also be able to go to the Perturb Radio YouTube and Mixcloud to see this interview, and all the links will be there as well. So this was absolutely lovely. Really,
I'll add it to my playlist.
Awesome. Yes. It's a great interview. I really appreciate this. And it was totally fun. And thank you for inspiring me also to kind of get back to my music a little bit.
No problem. COVID. Keep practicing the guitar. I know we did like a lesson or two. So keep going.
Yeah, never stop. Thank you, Frank. Have an awesome day. Okay,
thanks, guys.
This is the awesome song off of your EP that's coming up next. Check it out.
Panic.
Cool. That was a great interview. Thank you so much.
No, that was cool. That was a little different. You got some little different questions, so I like that.
Yeah, well, I'm a different human, so different questions.
I'm not the same as everybody else.
No, just a bit of an alien, That's why I'm here, adding my alien vibe to the overall conversation.
There you go.